I'm sure they're going to be making a decision either end of this week or early next week. But yes, they want to move on. Clearly, it's been indicated that they want to introduce the tolling option.
And what's your next move then?
Well, we are still meeting this week with the IMC. One of our members, Savrala, is meeting this morning, and Ultas puts tomorrow its proposal in writing to the IMC, and we hopefully meet again later this week and then see the way forward. We have also filed our papers late last night for the High Court review in November, our replying affidavits. So the court case is still in place, and but it remains to be seen whether we can reach breach this impasse and reach some amicable solution between now and the court date.
Immediately after the Constitutional Court ruled on the matter, a lot of people thought that perhaps they won't go ahead and implement this until the review in November. Are you surprised if this goes ahead before the review?
Yes, very surprised, because there's a lot of public resistance. I think this matter is a little bit bigger than the courts. This matter is around public acceptance, and to force something into place with the potential of it being stopped again in the High Court review, and there's a strong potential of that, leaves people confused. And we saw leading up to the April court case how little take-up there was. So it's going to be interesting to see what actually happens. And, this is where it can get nasty, and we don't want innocent people caught in the crossfire on this one. So
what do you mean nasty?
We are quite surprised.
What do you mean nasty?
Well, you just don't know. I mean, you listen to COSATU, you hear people saying we're not buying e-tags, we're going to resist, we're going to oppose the system. And you don't need that type of rhetoric and talk and behavior. It's going to be, the public are not happy about this. And when you have a situation where the public do not buy into it, where the public know that there's too much non-compliance, where where people are going to be supporting non-compliance, then it gets out of hand, I think.
But what is your sense? Do you think that the public still has the stomach for the fight, that the public is still willing to fight against this thing? Or are people saying, well, let it be then?
Absolutely, because when something is wrong, you can't force a process into place when it is blatantly wrong, when it is too expensive, when it is not in the best interests of society. So those are the main issues here, and you can force it, you can put the laws in place, but whether you have participation and buy-in and acceptance, and there are numerous examples of where tolling has been forced into place and that has not worked around the world as well. We must understand that.
Now, you said earlier on that this thing is bigger than the courts. Do you anticipate that it will be fought perhaps elsewhere outside of the courts, in the streets?
I don't know. When you do hear civil society and civil society movements and COSATU and that saying, well, we are not going to tag, we are encouraging people not to participate, then that's the type of problem that gives rise to unintended consequences.
All right, that's Ultas Wayne Duve talking to us about the comments made by Transport Minister Ben Martins. We thank you very much, Wayne. Let's get another comment from the former president of the Johannesburg Chamber of Commerce and Industry, Patrick Corbin. A very good morning to you, Patrick.
Good day to you.
Hi, do you think that people have got the stomach for the fight, or are people giving up?
I think the biggest problem is that the citizens of Johannesburg, the normal motorists in Johannesburg, don't understand the impact that the tolls are going to have on our normal urban roads, on their taking their children to school and going to work and so on. People who've got not the remotest interest in the motorways at all, or in fact in tolling. And we're in organised business, and I'm talking right across the spectrum from the Johannesburg Chamber to BUSA to Johannesburg Business Forum. We've been addressing this issue with the City Council, and the position from the council is quite interesting, because they believe that only a small percentage of our roads in Johannesburg are going to be affected, a very small percentage. And they believe that the motorists are going to have very limited options, because the secondary roads are already congested, and therefore shall we say, the additional crunch we're going to have on our congested roads is only going to be short-term, because they've done studies with SANRAL, and they confirm that, which confirm that this deviation will be short-term, 2 to 3 months, and then everybody will be back to on the motorways and paying the tolls. Well, of course, that's very difficult to understand, because one of the selling points on the freeway motorways is that they're going to be more free and you're going to be able to move faster. So our question from business is, well, where's all the traffic going to go that's not going to be on the motorway? And there's been, I think the council's attitude is, well, we're going to sit back and see what happens, and then we actually have got a plan B with SAMRO. We don't know what that is, but there's an acknowledgement, of course, that our Joburg traffic flows are abysmal. I mean, you don't need to, in fact, if you've got a D in maths, you can work out that if we could travel at 30 k's average an hour instead of 15, then you'd have half the traffic on the road. So it's not that there's too much traffic in Johannesburg, the traffic's just not moving.
All right, but let me try and answer. You say where is the volume going to go, and the possible answer is that people will start taking up Ria Vaya, the buses, people will start taking up Gautrain and so on, that the improved or the available public transport system then will be taken up.
Well, you sit in the SABC and I sit next to you in Kingsway here, and we've had 2 beautiful rear buses stopped outside our place for nearly 2 years.
That's true.
And we haven't seen a service, and we're not going to see one for another year. But those bus services are not going to make a small dent on the movement of commuters. I mean, we were told when the Gautrain started that a third of the traffic would disappear off the roads. And of course, you've got to understand that the more public transport we have, the more subsidies we're going to have to pay. I mean, the Gautrain's a good example. It's taking a third of our provincial budget already in subsidies, which should be going for roads and transport. So these ideas of public transport, and coupled with the fact that they're not going to work, but what about the growth in traffic that we have on a daily basis? It's just not going to work. And the financial aspect and the user pay aspect, of course, don't stand up, because in one breath the government are talking about 800 billion spend on infrastructure. Okay, a bit of that will be for Eskom, but there's substantial amounts for transport. And then they say no, they can't find money for the toll roads. It's not, and of course the user pay principle doesn't stand up either. I mean, the people in the Gautrain, as I say, are being heavily subsidised. So why is this user pay principle selectively applied?
Okay, Patrick, I thank you for your time. Is the former president of the Johannesburg Chamber of Commerce and Industry, Patrick Corbin, on the line.